Hey folks, Farmer Joe here, coming at you fresh from the greenhouse. And so, we can't let you come in the greenhouse because we put a lot of time and energy into taking care of the greenhouse crops, and we can't take the risk that maybe you have some aphids hanging along on your clothing, or maybe you've got tomatoes at home that you've been touching and you have some sort of bacteria or fungus that's not good for our tomatoes. So we really got to stay safe. So if you stay outside, you can look in through the screen and I'll explain to you what's going on here. So these are the cherry tomatoes. We planted these in January in our basement under lights, and we grew the plants in our basement till about March, and then in March we turned on the heat in the greenhouse. We've got heat in the soil that warms the temperature of the soil up to 18 degrees, and then we've got heat just blowing generally in the greenhouse to keep the crops at the optimal temperature, and based on if it's sunny, if it's cloudy, if it's day, or if it's night, there's different programs. So we have an artificial intelligence, like a computer program that we use to program all the climate control in the greenhouse, and so that way we're able to keep it at just the right climate settings and irrigation patterns. And so these plants were planted at the end of March, middle of March, and we started harvesting from them in May, and we're going to keep harvesting them from them all the way until October. And so these are cherry tomatoes. They're growing up. They're indeterminate tomatoes, and so we prune them. And so pruning means that we only want one main stem. And here at each leaf node, there comes what we call a sucker, which is just an auxiliary stem. It's a lateral stem coming out of each node, and so we're just going to snip that right off with our finger. We're just going to take that right off because otherwise each one of these is going to turn into a new tomato plant, and we're going to end up with an octopus sort of tomato plant instead of a nice single stem plant. The other thing we're doing is here they grow so much that we actually have to lean and lower them. So they grow all the way up to that wire, which is 10 feet high, and at that point we unwind some string from the hook, and we move all the tomatoes over, so they all sort of lean and lower as they go. And so that's something that we do every week during the summer. And so for instance, this plant here, let's see where it's actually rooted. You might think, oh, that plant grows right straight in the soil, but no, it comes down to here, and this is where the stem starts going horizontal. And if we follow it and follow it and follow it and follow and follow, oh, it's rooted all the way over here. So that plant is rooted about 10 feet over, and we're only in July, so you can imagine by October the plant that's growing here is actually going to be rooted about 30 feet down there. So we'll have a 30-foot stem growing along, and then the stem going up vertically with all the leaves on it. And so yeah, that's the basics of greenhouse tomatoes. Climate control, the correct varieties, so we choose varieties that are specifically adapted to greenhouse, and also fertility. We're fertilizing every 2 weeks with a mix of compost, chicken manure, micronutrients, and alfalfa meal. And so we're putting it right under here, right where the drip tape is. So this was just applied, but you can see already it's starting to turn white and fuzzy. That's what we want. We want the soil microbiology to be taking effect. And so that's why we put it, and we keep it covered with this white geotextile to create a nice, damp, dark spot where all the fertilizer can get digested by the microorganisms and released for the plant to use. So there you go. Let's go on to the next station.